Hey guys, it's your course director Emily Ray here. Just wanted to go through your visually designed resumes here. So this is where I'm going to offer some positive, productive feedback and some notes for you to be thinking about how to evolve this resume to its next best place. Like a portfolio, your resume is never going to be done. Because theoretically you're also going to be building skills, having experiences, and continually refining who you are and what you want to do in the industry. And your resume should be flexible enough that you can customize it to apply for any number of different related jobs within the industry. So a couple of things I want you guys to be thinking about on the front end. One is that it would benefit you to watch this entire review, not just the part dedicated to your site, because there's so much that you can learn from looking at the design decisions and inspirations of your cohort members. Also, I want you to be thinking about, is there a clear connection between the skills and experiences that you've shared and the media communications industry? I'm making an assumption here that since you're getting a degree in media communications, that you want to ultimately make that your career. So the feedback that I'm going to be providing has to have that as the context. In addition to talking about, what your role was, specifically what your responsibilities were in that role, can you be thinking about and articulate your accomplishment? We all have certain tasks as part of any job that we do, but it's how we execute on those tasks where we can make a signature impact. Also, spell check. Pretty please, especially if you're using something like Photoshop to be building your resume. Also have a human eye, a trusted friend or family member who's going to catch when you have omitted a word or misused a word based on certain context. Then last but not least, this is a flexible document. So as you continue to build your skills and have new experiences, come back, add a few lines here because you want to have an emergency resume on hand just so you can always be prepared to take advantage of any opportunity that crosses your path. So I'm going to start here with Stacy. We looked at this in class, and so I will kind of quickly mention some of the things that we talked about there. But the first thing being that I think the purple text for the body font needs to go. You give quite a long profile here, and employers are going to spend potentially 15 to 20 seconds going through your resume to decide whether or not they want to bring you to the next sort of stop or checkpoint in the hiring process. So I think that this is great information, and I love that it's part of your story, but I think that this what we see here is a little bit better suited for your portfolio site. Right here, the looking to work in social media management, I think that that is where you want to take this. And then you'll be getting a lot of this space back up here so that you can potentially add more down in the experience, education, and skills area. I'm seeing how these headings aren't sort of aligned flush here with this paragraph. I would encourage you to kind of align everything to the left here. It kind of gives a little bit more of a scattered appearance. We talked about the color scheme and maybe looking for something that offers enough contrast here, but that complements the purple. Not sure that this blue works, but that was also your intuition there. So continue to explore that. What I love is that you say you want to get into social media management, and then boom, your experience talks about learning and being effective in a role as a social media manager. So all of this is really cool because it absolutely establishes that clear connection between your skills and experience in the job that you want to get in the media communications industry. This is a great example of that. Again, make sure that when you have a bullet line that wraps around, that you're indenting this so that makes a clean alignment there with those words. We've got your education, skills, and award. So like the triangles here go right up to the words for skills, but then there's a little bit of space here. I think that this section could use a bit more breathing room. I think when you take out this paragraph and you can kind of give it a little bit more white space, that would be nice. There's kind of right here the kind of a change in the text size as well too. Just make that a bit more consistent there. I can see that you kind of use these as, it's a little bit bigger because it's talking about the position, and then it goes smaller again. I would look to have this be a little bit, keep this consistent. It needs to look a little bit different than this. Maybe make it bold, but just be consistent from line to line there. You shouldn't have the text change size in the middle of the line. Overall, Stacy, really pleased with how this is taking shape and how this is continuing to support your goals in this area. Next up, we've got Garrett's here. So your aesthetic is pretty black and white, but otherwise this doesn't have much style to it. So, that's something I'd like for you to be evolving this to as you continue to work on it. I know that's something we spoke about in class, but I definitely want to see another version of this moving forward. So there's a little bit of weirdness where there's like a dot here and then a comma and then a period. I don't think, these, little wingdings are needed really. So it could just be Garrett Wayne Clark. And then maybe it's just, maybe you list that underneath here and put your contact information up there. We've got your skills. When you do that, you have all this empty space. What about a 2 column for this area? We've got your related experience. So we have the photography and videography you've done for the climbing club. So you have the U-Fit. The marketing advisement, I might go ahead and put that first, right? Because we're talking about media related stuff, and then you can back that up with media related job duties and responsibilities there. This part is getting really wonky with the formatting. Not quite sure what's going on there, but you need to create some clean visual lines, some consistent spacing as well. We've got your education, and Garrett, there's a lot of great information on here. I would encourage you to clean it up a bit, add a bit more of your personal brand. I know that's something that we talked about, but I look forward to seeing this represent you a little bit more aesthetically as you continue to push forward. I definitely think that you've established that connection between the skills and experience that you've listed in media communications. It just might be that you need to tease it out and maybe streamline it a little bit better in your presentation here. But overall, this is a good start, but I'd like to see that version that we spoke about in class. So over here we have Robert's. I've seen this before because Robert had it in place when we were getting ready to do the whole Hall of Fame Career Expo. So it's really well done. We've got education, experience, and we've got his skills listed over here. Really teased out. A lot of great keyword-rich content in this area. So let's see here. I'm not a huge fan of italicizing information just because it seems somewhat arbitrary when it's done. If you want to make this stand out in a different way, perhaps a little spacing or a slightly different, topography choice. But again, so here when you're kind of listing these things in columns, you're pushing the content further down on the page when we create all of this empty space here. So what if instead of event planning, enter new line, hope helps, you were able to, kind of create a layout that facilitates, that a bit more. So I'm trying to understand a little bit. Okay, I see what you're doing here. With your experience, you've sort of teased these out as subheadings, except you only list one thing underneath the subheading. So for me, that was kind of a bit of confusion as to what you're doing there. If this is social media management here, then the information that you share in this, is this a subheading or is this your role? So that is a little I'm kind of unsure as to the hierarchy of the information here. I'm thinking that this is the role and that this is who you did it for. If that's the case, then you can certainly put the role here and then the company or the client or the project over here. And that's going to give you a bit more room, Robert, because you've got a lot of great stuff listed here. So I know that that's a slight visual tweak, but I think it's something that could kind of give you a bit more space to play with here. Let's see. Ability to work independently. Independently is spelled wrong. So again, you guys, analytical is spelled wrong. Multitask. Perhaps there should be a hyphen in there. So definitely go over this with a fine-tooth comb. You know, I've actually had resumes that I've passed on from students to employers, and the employers have turned them around back to me and said they weren't going to even consider the student for the position because of the misspellings in it. So you guys apply your Grammarly, apply your spell check, have your friends, have your family, go back and, here with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that you are getting all of these words spelled correctly. Overall, Robert, you've really, styled this beautifully, and I look forward to, perhaps working with you on just the headings and the subheadings here, just to give it a little bit more cohesion and a little bit more understanding in the way this information is laid out. All right, next up we have Breeze resume here. So really clean visual design. There's a lot of information that you've shared here. It's really attractive and well laid out. So I like up here where you kind of talk about things very broadly, like you help people believe themselves, but then you talk about it through telling, like storytelling, video, social media, and design. So that's a little more of the media related speak that I'm looking to see here. Definitely don't need your date of birth. Definitely don't need your marital status. And that kind of stuff should not be on your resume. Not quite sure about the decision to make this part bold. It seems somewhat arbitrary, so either bold all of the information in this. I don't even really think your address is really needed here. You might say something like, I'm not sure, because this isn't really an address, this is location, so maybe you call this location. Scrolling down here, we see your experience. So we've got the tour guide, the producing credits, social media assistant. So it seems like there's some weird line breaks here. So evergreen, new line, content, when it seems like content could very easily be on that line. It looks like platforms could probably be added up there. There's something weird happening here. The line spacing is off in this area as well. These are all pretty robust jobs. I feel like you're not adding enough information here to really showcase how much you have done for each of these things. I know that you're probably trying to stay within the format that was provided for you on this template, but this might be a missed opportunity not to fully detail that. So here we have your education. You've got the media communications and your high school information, and I'm not sure what this is. So it looks like it was during high school of some kind. I'm not sure if it's a certification or not. If it's a certification, leave it. Definitely don't need your high school diploma information up here, especially since you have collegiate work. That's going to throw off your design a little bit, right? So my recommendation for you here would to expand this entire section to experience, so you can fully detail everything that you've done for these positions, and then perhaps use the move the education down here to where it says personal qualities. These are kind of like core values, but I think detailing more so your work experience sort of outweighs what we see here. It's cool to see that you speak all of these languages. I don't really understand the quantification of this, right? So 75% French, and then just like a 75% drawn circle. That only lets me know not fully how proficient you are, but that you're not as proficient in French as you are in English. And patois? I don't know. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Please tell me what that is next time we see each other. But so I can understand wanting to include some sort of visual element here, but I have trouble with this type of visualization of the data because, of the skill, because it's somewhat arbitrary. It doesn't really tell me much. English 100% what? Like master, proficient, unclear. Your interests, dance, YouTube videos, and travel. Again, I like the icons. I would say this is somewhat interesting, like, rounding you out as an individual. We've got your technical skills here. Not quite sure why other skills like interviewing, producing, presenting, and camera operation are in a smaller font. Is it because you have 4 of those items? Because what if so these are technical skills, but you don't specify technical skills, so why do you have to say other skills? They're all just skills. And so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 here. I'd like to see this match that. This is a great template. I don't know why it says resume up here at the top. That can go away as well. But again, really need to fill out this experience, move just this education down to this section here, and maybe rethink this. You might choose to characterize this in a different way. Overall, again, very clean look and strong start with this resume. All right, here we go with Claudia. So this is not the first time I've seen this resume. It is branded very nicely. It's very clean in its presentation, and it shows, that you want to get into reporting. It doesn't say anything specific. Oh, here we go. There we've got sports journalism. So that's, one of the ways that you are making that clear connection between, the skills and experience that you're sharing and what it is that you want to do when you get out of Full Sail. So kind of scrolling through here, your high school information, not necessarily. So you want to go ahead and get rid of that. It's going to give you, more space up here for you to play around. You've got your experience. I would say that this needs to be aligned with the text here, so it's kind of indented a little bit. You might even consider making these a little bit bigger because you might have this space. You stack this up, right? So the fiction, tribe, new line, Portland, new line, intern, new line, dates. Can you kind of spread this out a little bit? So I shadowed video editors and did photography and video editing. Can you give us more information about kind of what your roles and responsibilities are there, but then also your accomplishments, right? So like, what was your signature impact within that particular role? So here we've got Full Sail reporter, Full Sail taught intern basic skills of reporting. So like, I'm a little bit confused as to why these are 2 different things. This kind of makes it look like Full Sail was your employer. So there needs to be some distinction here, what kind of experience, like if this was paid experience or if this was all academic experience or internship experience, right? So here you say that you were an intern, here you say you're a reporter, but it kind of looks like maybe Full Sail was the employer at this time. So definitely you want to make that clear how you are contextualizing your experience. You've got your Skyboat information here. So anytime you can, you want to make sure that things aren't hyphenating to a new line. It's a little bit tricky with this 2-column layout. It might be something that you consider, just listing out instead of in sort of this grid type format. One other thing is that there's some inconsistency here where you're abbreviating Oregon, but you're spelling out Florida here, but you are abbreviating Florida here. Don't think you need that slash right there by Land O'Lakes. So definitely, and this is on site, so this is the way we see site, like vision, not site like a place or location. That would be S-I-T-E. So again, you guys, this is the kind of stuff that spell check is not going to catch. It's not going to catch inconsistencies in abbreviation. It's not going to catch the misuse of a word, when you mean to say something else. This is the kind of stuff that you need a trusted friend, family member, someone to sit with you and look through this to, make sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. You've already done a lot of this work, Claudia, but there are a few things when you're gonna, you need to play a little bit with the formatting, with the removal of the high school information, and then maybe the shoring up or the shortening up of these because you have them stacked out so much. Next up, we're going to take a look at Dylan. So Dylan and Claudia are kind of like running on a similar color scheme. It's very sort of conservative, very professional looking, this color choice. What I'll say is there's, I might encourage you to experiment with, you know, like a complementary typography, like something to go with this. This is all pretty like short and squatty in terms of a font. I like it a lot, but everything looks sort of like spread out. You know, that like the words aren't sort of condensing, like maybe the kerning is out a little bit. I'm not sure, but it looks like it's kind of like filling out the space, and it almost looks like one of those word search where we have like all of the letters. You know, I'd like to, you know, I'd like to encourage you to maybe use this as like headings and subheadings, and something that is a bit more standard in its kerning and sizing for this body text. You've got your contact information up top. This, you know, I guess is just your sort of profile, so that, you know, lets us know that you're into graphics and web and branding, all that good stuff. It seems as if you're kind of, so like, has done work in freelance as well as worked on multiple projects. It's almost as if you are talking about yourself in third person here. Check the tense of that if that's what you're intending to do. Got your education down here, which is great. Your technical skills, your soft skills. Curious as to why these are like in a list, and then these are sort of so these are like in a bulleted list, and these are kind of like a comma separated list. Curious as to that that choice. Let's see here. You know, it looks really nice, but again, I would just say experiment a little bit more with your typography choices, because I think that this is the perfect amount of information for this page, except that it looks like it doesn't have enough breathing room because of how, you know, sort of how much space there is between the letters. Definitely willing to take another look at this as you sort of play. So here we have this size typography, but then this looks, is it a little different? I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say if this is smaller or larger or the same size. This font is really playing tricks on me. Yeah. Also, last but not least, curious about your decision to make a bold line and then thin lines otherwise. Like, what's that supposed to signify? Next up, we have Nix. So I can see that this aligns and is cohesive with what I know your portfolio site to be. So here we have your skills. Curious as to, like, we have a lot of line separations here. I might recommend you don't use a line underneath the subheading, but to then separate the sections, right? So this line would then be under here, and then potentially your subheadings could be in red, right? It's because you are using that otherwise. You've got your video editor work study. Certainly, you can come up with more than 2 bullet points for all the work you do there. You're a man with a lot of skills, but this work history doesn't necessarily, I think, fully detail everything you're capable of. I would encourage you maybe to ask your work study supervisor if they have a job description, and then go look at that job description and see, you know, what of that you do, and then make sure that you're representing that here in these different areas. So we've got your projects. I might call this like academic project. So here we've got your Hall of Fame 9. Again, I think that I probably saw Nick more than anybody who was running around doing so much work. I can definitely believe that you worked over 30 hours, and I think it was definitely more than 3 days. What more can you put here? Because there was more that you did. And then we've got your education here and your graduation date. Nick, this is a perfect start. I don't know why this is so small. You have plenty of room on this page to make that the same font size as this, but definitely you are on your way to a robust resume. Just give me some more detail, give me some more oomph here. Last but not least, we've got Brooke, so very stylish as we see it. The design on this is on point. Everything is like really wonderfully aligned. We look at your education. Again, you guys aren't needing to showcase any high school when you have some collegiate experience there. Your job connections or experience. So we've got connections, universal, I'd like to see more about what each one of these entails. Because you're going to have a few extra lines. So like you're going to get rid of 3 lines of content here. So you can add an extra line of explanation about each one of these jobs in that section. We've got your creative projects, so photography, web. You know, I might say something like C portfolio for these, right? Are these different font sizes? They look like they are. Double check that. This section over here looks really clean. Everything is aligned really well. This is a little bit different light gray, so you'll want to check on that. And references, still working on those. Lol. I know that this is placeholder information, but I encourage you to go ahead and add a trusted, you know, colleague, boss, manager, or professor in this area so they can speak to how awesome you are. You guys, this was the start. Well, not the start because you're in Portfolio 6 and you've done probably 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 versions of your resume already, but get ready to start doing even more because you are on the verge, you guys, of leaving MCBS and getting jobs and rocking and rolling with your media careers. So, you know, do the work now. And by do the work, I mean, I just gave you a bunch of feedback and you saw how other people were doing cool things with their resumes. Revisit this. Revisit it because to the extent that you have it ready for when you go see Kevin, you know, you have one less thing to worry about in your final month in MCBS. If you have any questions about this feedback, give me a shout.